there, my name is Jonathan Baumgart. I'm the CEO of Atomic Consulting. In today's video, I want to discuss real versus fake or illegitimate Forex broker licenses. So let's get started. So the reason I decided to make this video is I've noticed there's been more and more what I call illegitimate or phony FX licenses hitting the marketplace. It has bothered me to see this because I do not think these licenses offer any value to clients, but many of those that we speak to are completely new and they rely on consultants like myself and other firms to guide them in the proper direction. And I've had more than one case where people have come to me with a license in a region, in a place like Comoros, and have struggled to get banking options or other services. And this bothers me because I can't help them, and I'm upset that other consulting firms strung them along. Now, before I jump into this, I've made a video where if you want Comoros, I will show you how to get it for free because it is not a real license and I wouldn't charge you money for that. So you may be asking then, okay, well, what is a real license? How can I tell? Well, that's what we're going to get into today. There's three main ways you can tell whether or not a license is fake or real. So the first point that we'll discuss is the resale value of the license. When you get what I call a real license, and this can even be in a place like Vanuatu, for example, or Mauritius. You may laugh, you may say these are esoteric offshore places. Fine, but these licenses have value. If you don't believe me, check out our website. We always have one or two of these licenses available for sale. And on average, the prices begin around $100,000 and go up from there. Now, they're not always that much. In fact, they're usually quite more. But you can at least get the money you put into a license back, if not some profit, when you get a real license. Now, why would someone pay money for any of these licenses? Essentially, you're buying time. Okay, now one of the points I'll come to is the time it takes to get a license. But basically, you cannot get a license overnight. And that's not the only reason it has value, but there are those who quickly want to enter the industry. Perhaps they are backed by venture capitalists or have pulled money together and they wish to acquire a license. Well, you can do so, and in some cases like South Africa, it can happen in about a month or so, and then you're up and running. That offers value. But a place like Comoros or Nauru, you can get this license in a week. So why would anyone ever buy a license that you can obtain so quickly? Why would anyone, for example, pay money for a Comoros license when it's issued to you in a week's time? It has no resale value. That means whatever money you sink into the license is gone because someone can just as easily get a new one. Now, you can maybe undercut the amount that you paid and sell the license for half, but it'll have to really be a fire sale of a deal. Plus, you have to work with the local authorities, if they even exist, to change the ownership. And I don't even know if that's possible if they allow it. So when you look at it from the standpoint of resale, a fake license no one wants to buy. I will never list a Comoros license. I may list a company that has software and other services, and we'll throw in Comoros, but you'll never be able to get your money back on Comoros. You can maybe get half or 1/3. However, with a legitimate license in Mauritius, Vanuatu, Cyprus, these licenses can sell for far more than you put into them. And if they have a book of business, even more. Keep in mind that if you were to get a license even in an offshore region and hold it for many years, that contains a lot of value. But not in a place like Comoros where anyone will give you this license. So when determining if a license is real or illegitimate, the second criteria that you can consider is the KYC approval process. So I'd like to discuss that now. So what I mean by KYC approval process is basically the process that a regulatory body takes to approve a license. Now in the case of Comoros, all you need is money. But for legitimate license, money alone will not get you there. And I think that's an important point. Now, I did mention you can acquire a broker, but you need an experienced board of directors and staff, even if you're buying a broker. And sometimes that means keeping the existing approved directors in place or bringing in those outside of your organization to get approved. In any event, you cannot just buy your way into a legitimate license. So what makes a license legitimate is the criteria that various regulatory bodies set for their approval. Even in a place like Vanuatu, which many laugh at, they have an extensive KYC process for anyone who will be approved for that license. It involves background checks, providing sources of income and wealth, various other KYC measures. All of these regulatory bodies take things seriously. Now, comparing that to a place like Comoros, where you just pay money and are handed the license, I think you can understand the difference here. That to get a real license requires that the directors and the ownership structure has experience in this market and can prove it through reference letters, through sources of wealth and income, and general KYC practices. All of that ensures to the regulator that the group or organization that they will approve of has the necessary experience and is responsible. Now that's great for the end user. Even in a place like Vanuatu, you cannot mess around with the clients. If you do, they have a forum, the VFSC, the Vanuatu Financial Services Commission, that they can complain to. And Vanuatu does shut down brokers that violate the rules. In Comoros, there's no such thing. In Nauru, there's no such thing. There is no place you can complain because it's not a real license. Nevertheless, because the regulatory bodies set a strict criteria for who they approve, this adds value to the license. If you are able to pass all of their requirements and get approved, that's great because not everyone can. Plenty of directors and plenty of shareholders may have made mistakes in the past that disqualify them from obtaining a license, or they're just not financially suitable, which is more often the case. In fact, sometimes we come across clients who want to obtain licenses, but unless they hire external directors, they cannot get approved. This is the main difference. Any regulatory body that is legitimate will put their client, i.e. the broker, through quite an exhaustive KYC process before approval. And that's the best way to determine if the license is legitimate. And the final way, the third way I'll discuss here, is approval time. So I'm not a big fan of approval time, especially in Europe and in Asia. In Cyprus, for example, it takes ages. In the UK, it takes forever to get a license. Okay? I think they're excessive. But you also have to be realistic. If you want to get a legit license, a license that's worth its value, you have to have respect for the regulatory body. If they're just going to rubber stamp it and give it to you in a few weeks, like Comoros, then what value does this have? Getting back to my first point. If you want a license that has some type of legitimacy to it, you have to expect to wait a bit for it to be approved. And this kind of ties into the previous point. Regulatory bodies are quite thorough. They do extensive due diligence on all the directors, and that takes time. Even outside of the KYC checking, they need to make sure that the broker is legitimate and looks sound. That's a big value that our team offers, is we help to draft the anti-money laundering policies, business plans, and the other requirements that are needed to get approved. You may not have that, but your broker is legitimate, you have a good business in mind, you have everything in place. That's where we can help you out with our licensing services. This is because the regulator must review it. They will go through the business plan and all of these policies with a fine detailed comb to make sure everything checks out. And the thing is, that takes time. This cannot be rushed. And you have to understand when you're applying for a license, you're not the only one. There's a long list of applicants. This is the reason why it takes, on average, 6 months, depending on the region, to get a license. Now, I wish it could be faster, but this works to the advantage of any broker that gets regulated. Because a committee that is part of the regulatory authority must review not only the directors and shareholders, but the entire plan of the broker, gives the license legitimacy. It shows that this company is sound and has been approved by a regulatory body. You simply don't have that in these phony regions that just hand you a license if you pay them the money. And that is the main criteria, the main difference between a real and illegitimate license. So to wrap up, resale value, the actual KYC process itself that the regulatory authority takes, and the length of time, I mean the time needed that the regulatory authority will take to approve, in the case of our clients, almost always the license. So I hope you found this video helpful as you navigate regulation. It took me quite a while to understand the ins and outs of these regions, and I know more than anyone how intimidating it can be. That's why if you'd like to discuss licensing, if you want to have a call and go over what we view as the legitimate jurisdictions out there, then don't hesitate to book a call with myself or one of our team members. We'd be happy to discuss this with you. If you like the video and this content, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you get notified when we publish a new video. And feel free to share your thoughts. If you come up with another region that you found in search, we'll gladly make a video or provide you our feedback. So thank you very much for checking out our video, and see you soon. Bye.